Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy dead.
We asked the question, why doesn't 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons have race-specific backgrounds? Well, let's talk about that.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
Now, I believe Kazik had sent in, I don't really remember where he sent in, and if he emailed us or if it was the contact form, but he wanted to know our thoughts on the idea of racial backgrounds. I mean, we have racial subclasses already, so why not backgrounds? And we kind of get one in Sorcerer's Adventures Guide.
All right, so Clan Crafter looks to be, hey, I'm dwarf or dwarf trained. What does that mean? You could literally create a background of just, well, I spent time with this race, or I am of this race, and I just kind of embody it.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting concept. I'll circle back to that in a moment. But one of the things that 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons added to the game was the idea of backgrounds. It's this big blocky chunk of your character that gives you either a language or tool proficiency, some skills, some starting gear, and kind of like a special feature that's going to enable role-playing throughout the game. Now, these blocks can kind of like define your character, and, you know, because your race is going to be a big part of it, and your sub-race even, I think tying a background to that stuff is another way of kind of like doubling down on your character's identity.
I think that's very true. And you could lump this together pretty easily. You could say, I'm going to take the race background, insert race. And for a lot of it, it could be formulaic. On average, you get 4 things divided between skills, tools, and languages. And you get a feature. You get equipment too, but that would be a little bit harder to figure out. One of those things should be the racial language, if it exists.
I will say this, like, you could really do some cool flavorful things with the equipment. At surface, it may not seem like it, but perhaps like in your starting gear is like elven way bread or something like that. That would really like kind of speak to a specific race if if you're basing it off something as broad as the race.
Yeah, getting something very race specific to put in your starting gear would be very cool, and it could be interesting. They're like, oh well, why do you have that, or how do you have that? One of those 4 things could be just the language. Now, if you're talking humans speak common. There's nothing new to add there. Living amongst humans are very diverse. I really don't think that should be an option. I don't know how you feel, but I would say chuck that one out and just lump it into 8.
Well, only because humans are so diverse and they're like almost like the default for every setting. I almost would want to say, like, make the adopted background, right? And the idea is, you know, a dwarf adopted, elf adopted. Like, you could do them for all of them. And like you said, it gives you the language. And then maybe it gives you a tool proficiency that is relevant to that particular race. And then, you know, your skills would be also based on that as well. Like if you're orc adopted, right? Because you can't go with half-orc per se, because they're not really their own race, or half-elf. But you can say, oh, well, this race gets this skill as part of their thing. Well, you could just make that one of the thing. Like an orc would be
athletics, intimidation.
Well, yeah, that would be a good mix, but definitely intimidation, because you get that for being a half-orc. You could go elf and go perception, because you get that for being an elf. Like, one of those things kind of like automatically gets picked. Now you could make it even more interesting than that and go, oh, you went elf, so you get to speak Elvish, you get perception. And then you go, oh, well, what kind of elf are you? Oh, you're a wood elf, so you get survival. So if you're a wood elf, you would get perception and you would get survival. If you're a high elf, well, maybe that's history or arcana. If you're a drow, I don't know, is there a torture? No.
Deception?
Yeah, maybe it's deception or something that makes you think of drow. And you could do that with the different races if you wanted to. And that is the idea of you being another race and then you're wanting aspects of a different race and incorporating that into your background as a racial background.
So, like, literally in the Drizzt novels, Catti Bree is raised by dwarves. So her background literally could be dwarf adopted if you wanted to, go down that road.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's not exactly unique either, because if you go with Elbrian from the Demon Wars trilogy or saga, forget which it is.
Demon Wars saga.
He's kind of raised by Fae, and you could, so that's another like way you could go, which is even more different. It was stolen by them, I think, but you could definitely go with it, and that's how they did their Rangers. That's one route. Now, the other would be, oh, well, you're of this race, and they have a long tradition of doing particular things, like dwarves and mining. Maybe dwarf and miner is actually racial-specific background that you can take, and you have to be a dwarf. And so maybe they're going to get, obviously, mining tools, or whatever the equivalent is. They're going to know about that. They're going to get, as one of their skills, I would probably give them perform, believe it or not.
Because they sing.
Because they sing and they chant, when they work. Or you can do however you wanted to do it. Like, if you have Viking orcs in your world, literally, like, a profession could be the war drummer, and he keeps rhythm on the boat, and, you would build it around that. Or, we did a Daddy's Issue video for a GM91 with tieflings a while back, and you could do something like background Hellspawn, or Out of the Abyss, or something, and then you come up with some things that have something to do with that.
You spend time in the lower planes, as part of your existence.
Or you could be constantly tormented from a young age with visions of that and dreams of that, and you even have maybe like mentor that has been guiding you through your life or whatever as you're coming up.
Oh God, that just sounds ridiculous. An imp mentor, not looking at its concept as you as an adult, and the imp is your mentor. The imp is like so tiny.
Yeah, well, when you were a kid, it was big. But yeah, so no, and you could do things like that. And maybe that imp shows up every once in a while to give you advice, and that could be the feature, right? It won't do anything for you, but you can ask a question or something.
It gives advice on occasion, but most of the time it shows up, it's just there to razz you or
give you a hard time. So I feel like there's a bunch of different ways where we could explore some really interesting and different backgrounds by honing in on the races and what's iconic about those races.
I think so as well. So what do you guys think? What kind of backgrounds would you like to see race specific? Go ahead and put your suggestions down in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Check us out at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.